Hello all, I hope you're all well. Thank you for tuning in to my reflection of my time in Korea. Firstly, apologies for my long absence and my lack of communication, and thank you for your patience. I really felt like I needed a chance to recharge and recalibrate over the last few weeks. So I was very fortunate to have the opportunity to represent our community for Mother's 80th birthday celebrations, the Cosmic Blessing, and of course the opening of the Cheonwon-gun. We also attended the Victory Day celebrations and a pilgrimage across Korea. So I just want to share a little bit about my preparations before going to Korea. As a relatively new pastor, officiating the Holy Wine ceremony and internally preparing for the Holy Wine ceremonies was a really moving experience for me. Not only was it moving, but I found it was a very intimate and a deep time between me and God. For me, the Holy Wine ceremonies and the conditions that we had to do was a chance to renew my blessing and renew my marriage to Kayan. We were blessed 10 years ago, and as time has passed, I realized that the meaning of the blessing was lost a little bit from our initial blessing time and the initial excitement. So during the 40-day preparation for the Holy Wine ceremonies, it was a stark reminder that we are a product of our lineage, and that lineage is our way to connect with God, and lineage is our way to engraft onto the Messiah, should I say. Which means that we are the focal point for our descendants, and what we do in this life has an impact on our future generations through our legacy. So every day we're building our legacy, but our legacy is not for us. Essentially, our legacy is passed on to future generations. So this set the tone for me traveling to Korea. I was pondering, what legacy am I building every day? What legacy am I passing on to my future generations? I really wanted to commit to God, and I had found that my faith was not just a belief in God, but that I need to utilize my faith to actualize God's dream of building a unified, loving family. And by that I mean not just a physical family, but a worldly family. Last time I spoke about my travels to Korea in August, I shared that I struggle with large celebrations and some of our church cultures when it comes to these big celebrations. And this was no different this time. Many of my peers and many people on the pilgrimages and many people who attended the events shared about great spiritual experiences. For example, someone shared that when the Cheonwon-gun opened, they saw a flood of light explode out of the doors and encompass all the participants at the event. My experiences were a little bit more subtle, to be honest with you. I had a strong feeling over the last few months that Family Federation is in crisis and that we're in need of our own rebirth, reform and spiritual revival. I noticed that Mother was very solemn and serious over the events and during the course of our time in Korea. Apart from the one time when she opened the Cheonwon-gun doors and walked inside, she let out a very small yet candid smile, which is extremely cute and encouraging. But Mother's seriousness and solemnness actually resounded with me, and I could really connect to Mother's seriousness and Mother's will to save humanity. So I'm very concerned about our local communities, to be honest with you, and our impact on society around us. And Mother must be feeling this too, but on a much, much larger scale, given the magnitude of her mission and the task at hand. But she's bearing this burden, yet pushing forward, for she knows that God is on her side. And if we look at Father's life, or if we look at historical figures in the Bible, we know that if God is on our side, that we can move mountains and we can overcome difficulties. I mentioned my experiences were subtle, and one example of this was one morning I was reflecting on my relationship with True Mother and how that is not where I wanted to be. Over the last few years, I've been able to understand Father much more than when I was growing up, and I've had personal experiences with Jesus. Yet mother, I was struggling to connect with her. As I was reflecting and praying and looking out my window that morning, actually before I share the experience, we were staying at a hotel maybe half an hour away from Chomphyon. And similarly to Chomphyon, our hotel room looked across this body of water, which was very similar to the Chomphyon lake. So one morning I was reflecting, praying about my relationship with mother. And the next thing I saw was this large crane swoop past my window, glide across the water. This beautiful, large, majestic crane came swooping past the window, glided just gently across the water, and flew off into the distance then. And yeah, in that moment it was a very peaceful and serene moment where I felt like I was not alone. Attending these providential events in Korea can be very juxtaposing. There are many people, the events are very busy, the schedule's very busy, yet you can still feel very alone. And for me anyway, it's a chance to challenge my own thoughts and challenge my own sense of self. So having this experience with this crane when thinking about mother and reflecting about my relationship to true mother, it was very beautiful and very meaningful for me. Moving on, mother spoke very briefly to us. I was hoping for some in-depth guidance and some in-depth direction for where we need to take our communities, but mother spoke very briefly. Particularly at the blessing, her words are very short. In fact, I believe she said something along the lines of, I'm not too sure what I can say, but I love you all. And she was talking to the newly wedded couples at the blessing. But isn't that really beautiful what she said? The phrase that she said was, I love you, which is actually more powerful than giving such a long speech. Anyway, so mother's focus, as we found out, is on outreach and for us to have more impact on wider communities. And I felt this inside of me for the last few months, and this feeling's been growing stronger as time has passed, that we need to be focusing on outreach, we need to be sharing our faiths, and we need to be developing the holy community. And I've been compelled and pushed, I feel, by Spirit World to try and do this. Yet I've been really blocked by my own self-limiting beliefs and fear. A fear of failure and a fear of rejection and a fear of isolation, to be honest with you. But I'm determined to try and turn this fear into motivation. Fear can do two things. It can either hold us back or it can push us forward. So what I want to do now, what I feel passionate about, is to mobilize my fellow second generation peers to share their faiths and to explore developing the holy community in their own ways. Before I scare anyone away, what I mean by this is for us to have an active community where others can join us in celebrating God's love through worship, but also we have opportunities for fellowship and volunteering and to have a practical impact on the communities around us. It's important to note that I also feel that street witnessing and preaching and conversion needs to be looked at also, but there needs to be a greater focus on collaboration and a greater focus on inclusivity. The divine principle tells us very clearly that there needs to be unity before love. So what I'd like us to do is to unite with a wider community and to share God's love with others. Thank you very much for listening to my reflection.